Welcome to Film Recap. Today we are going to talk about a psychological crime thriller film called Seven. Beware of the spoilers and have fun. In an unnamed city, the soon-to-be retired, Detective Lieutenant William Somerset is partnered with the new detective David Mills, who recently moved to the city with his wife Tracy. On Monday, the detectives are called in to investigate the death of an obese man with his face in a plate of spaghetti. They are unsure if it is a murder until they see his legs tied up with wire. After the autopsy, it is determined that the man ate himself to death until his stomach burst, while being threatened with a gun to his head. Somerset concludes that the person responsible is not just out to kill someone, but for it to have a greater meaning. He figures that this is just the beginning of a serial killer. He wants to be reassigned because of his retirement in 6 days, but the captain denies his request, and tells him to stay on the case. On Tuesday, Detective Mills investigates another murder of a lawyer. He sees the word greed written in blood on the floor. Back at the police station, the captain informs Detective Somerset about the murder, and the captain hands him a bottle containing small pieces of plastic that was force-fed to the dead obese man. He returns to the house of the obese man to investigate and finds the plastic pieces match scratches on the floor. Somerset looks behind the refrigerator and finds the word gluttony written in grease on the wall. A postcard also hangs below with writing, "Long is the way and hard, that out of hell leads up to light." It is a quote from A Paradise Lost by the poet John Milton. Somerset concludes that the murders are based on the 7 deadly sins. He figures that 5 more murders will happen based on the next 5 sins: sloth, wrath, pride, lust, and envy. On Wednesday, Detective Mills' wife calls the office wanting to speak with Detective Somerset and invites him for dinner at their apartment. After dinner, the detectives look at the crime scene photos of the deceased lawyer. The lawyer was bound with only his right arm free, holding a butcher's knife. In another picture, there is a scale with a pound of flesh. A reference to a Shakespeare play called The Merchant of Venice. The killer gave the lawyer a choice to cut out a part of his body, and if done, he could go free. He ended up cutting the side of his stomach but ended up dying from the injury. They see a portrait of the lawyer's wife with blood marked around the eyes, and they determine that she might know something. They go to the safe house where she is staying, and she points out that one of the paintings is upside down. The detectives go back to the lawyer's office and examines the painting. They unfortunately find nothing on the painting, but they find fingerprints on the wall behind the painting spelling "Help me." On Thursday, the detectives are woken up by their captain telling them that the prints were matched to a man who was a drug dealer and child molester, and that his lawyer was the same person who was murdered previously. They are led to his apartment, where they find him dead and strapped to a bed with wounds all over his body. The words sloth are written on the wall above the bed, and pictures are found being dated exactly 1 year ago, showing that the crime was planned way in advance. While investigating the scene, the man wakes up, and they are startled realizing that he is actually alive. While discussing the scene, a photographer comes in taking pictures and angers Detective Mills. Somerset points out that Mills very easily acts on emotion and is short-tempered. While in the hospital, the detectives try to question the man, but is unable to communicate due to his critical condition. The doctor said he wouldn't be able to talk anyway since he chewed out his tongue. While at home, Detective Somerset receives a phone call from Tracy, Detective Mills' wife, and asks if she can meet to talk some time. On Friday, Detective Somerset and Tracy meet at a diner. Tracy wanted to talk to someone that she is uncomfortable living in the city. She tells him that she is pregnant and is scared to raise a child in the terrible environment. Somerset sympathizes, having a similar situation when he was younger, and advises her to tell Mills only if she plans to keep the child. Back at the police station, and while discussing who the killer might be, Somerset realizes that the killer probably has a library card to study how to do all of the murders. They create a list of top literature that he might have checked out. They wait in a diner and meet with a man from the FBI and pays him to take the list of literatures. While in a barber shop, Somerset explains that the FBI tracks reading habits from the library. Specific books such as nuclear weapons are flagged, and if they are checked out, then that information is sent to the FBI. Somerset thinks that specific books based off of the 7 deadly sins would have been checked out by the murderer, and the FBI computers could give them a name. Detective Mills questions the legality of this information, but the FBI man meets them in the barbershop and gives them a list of names. They learn that a man named John Doe checked out a book by St. Thomas Aquinas who wrote about the 7 deadly sins. They go to his apartment to talk to him. While knocking on the door, a long-coated man with a hat sees the detectives and starts firing a gun at them and flees. They realize it is probably the John Doe they are looking for, and they chase after him. Mills chases him down a fire escape, but injures his arm in the process. Mills searches around a truck, and is struck by a tire iron. While disoriented, Doe walks up and holds a gun to his head at gunpoint for a brief moment before escaping. The detectives argue about investigating the apartment because they have no warrant, and it questions the legality of how they found the apartment. Mills decides to ignore Somerset and kicks down the door, but he pays off a woman to fake a story that she called the detectives to look into John Doe. While investigating the apartment, they find cans of spaghetti sauce, newspaper articles of the lawyer freeing the pedophile, and the chopped off hand of the pedophile. Mills finds a picture of himself, realizing that the photographer that they encountered is the murderer. Hundreds of notebooks are also found, revealing John Doe's psychopathy. The detectives realize that it would take months to read all of the notebooks. A phone suddenly rings in the apartment and Detective Mills answers. John Doe is on the other side, saying that he was surprised to see them at his apartment, and that he is planning to readjust his schedule due to the recent setback. He just wanted to call to express his admiration. They find a clue to the next murder. A receipt to a leather goods store and a picture of a blonde woman. On Saturday, at the leather goods store, they ask the owner about John Doe and he remembers him. The owner shows them a picture of what was made, and the detectives realize they need to find the blonde woman soon. They arrive too late at a club with another murder, finding the blonde woman. They interrogate a man who said he was forced at gunpoint to kill a prostitute by raping her with a custom-made bladed leather strap-on, representing lust. On Sunday, the detectives arrive at a house with the fifth victim, a model whose face has been mutilated by John Doe. The word pride is written on the wall. In one of her hands was a phone, and in the other was a bottle of sleeping pills. Doe sliced up her face and gave her a choice. Call for help and you'll live, but you'll be disfigured, or you can put yourself out of your own misery. Back at the police station, John Doe walks in with blood all over, and they arrest him. It's revealed that he constantly cuts the skin off of his fingerprints. Somerset and Mills don't think that he would just turn himself in, and that he's up to something. Doe's lawyer says that there are 2 more bodies hidden away, and that he will only be escorted by detectives Mills and Somerset. Doe says he will confess to the crimes only if the detectives escort him to the secret location of the other 2 bodies, otherwise, he will plead insanity. During the drive, John Doe expresses his lack of remorse for his crimes, declaring that his victims deserve to die, and professes himself to be a martyr chosen by a higher power to shock the world of its state of apathy. Doe leads them to a remote desert location. Minutes after their arrival, a delivery van approaches, and Mills holds Doe at gunpoint while Somerset goes to intercept the driver. The driver said that he was instructed to deliver a box for Detective David Mills to their specific coordinates at exactly 7 o'clock. Somerset decides to open the box, and begins to panic. He runs towards Mills to stay away from Doe, trying to tell him to throw away his gun. Doe starts to talk to Mills about Tracy, and that he decided to go to their home and decapitate her head. Doe explains that he himself represents the sin of envy, as he envied Mills and Tracy's normal life. Mills screams, wondering what's in the box. Doe wants Mills to kill him so that he becomes the sin of wrath. Doe says she begged for her life, and the unborn baby inside of her, realizing that Mills had no idea about the baby. Somerset tries to warn Mills that if he kills Doe, then Doe will win. Torn by the decision to kill or spare the man's life, he gives in and becomes the sin of wrath and executes John Doe, shooting him repeatedly. John Doe's master plan is finally complete. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more film recap videos.